Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Just Law on IQRA TV. I'm your host Ilyas Bulbulia and I'll be with you for the next hour. As our regular viewers are aware, on Just Law we normally discuss an area of law which is of interest to you, our viewers. And secondly, and more importantly, Just Law is a live show. So whatever questions you have on any aspect of English law, all you need to do is pick up the phone and give us a ring, and inshallah I will be able to hopefully guide you and give you some advice in relation to that. On this show we should be able to cover a diverse range of matters relating to English law, ranging from immigration law matters, family matters, personal injury matters, etc. So whatever your query, concern is, whatever it is that you need some advice on, the number that you will be able to call us on will be appearing at the bottom of your screen. So all you need to do is pick up the phone and give us a ring, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some guidance in relation to those issues. Just a couple of matters before we get going. Obviously it's a live show, so I'm not able to take very detailed information from you live on air. If it transpires that I need to speak to you in depth before I can advise you, then I will ask you to leave your number with the control room, and then I will give you a ring later on off air. And just a final caveat, obviously on a live show I'm not able to look at any documents that you have. And again, if it transpires that I do need to look at your documents before I can advise you, then again I will ask you to leave your number with the control room, and then I will give you a ring back and we can make arrangements for you to send your documents to me, and then we can have a discussion off air after I have looked at your documents. So they're the only 2 points that I need to address, but whatever your questions are, in my experience, the vast majority of them I should be able to answer live on air. We get a lot of questions on immigration law matters, which is fantastic, but whatever your questions are, all you need to do is pick up the phone and ring us on the number at the bottom of the screen. Now, as always, as I said at the outset, we normally have a topic that we discuss, a topic which normally is one where we get a lot of questions on live on air. So it's the same kind of topic we discuss. And today what I want to discuss is again to do with spouse applications, but something slightly different. In terms of the financial circumstances that need to be fulfilled, that need to be met when somebody in the UK is sponsoring a husband or wife to come over. We've looked at the situation where the sponsor in the UK is employed and the kind of documents that need to be submitted in support of an application where somebody is employed. What I want to do today is look at something slightly different. Look at the situation where somebody is self-employed, and I think this is a topic that I touched upon last week, but we weren't able to make much progress on that. So today's show will focus on the sponsor who is in the UK who wants to sponsor their husband or wife to come to the UK from abroad, and the sponsor in the UK is self-employed. So the sponsor isn't employed, is actually self-employed, whether it is as a sole trader in their own business or whether they are in partnership with somebody else. But we're looking at the classic situation where somebody is self-employed. Now, after that, if we have time, we'll look at the situation where somebody is self-employed operating their own limited company. There are different rules which relate to that, but that's the focus of our show today. But as always, whatever your questions are, whatever they relate to, doesn't have to necessarily relate to the issues we are looking at today. Please do give us a ring. We'll take our first call before we return to this topic. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, इलियास भाई कैसे हैं?
जी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ठीक है, आप कैसे हो? ठीक हो?
जी अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह ठीक है।
माशाअल्लाह जी।
मेरा एक ये सवाल है कि मेरी बेटी ने अपने स्पाउस के लिए वीज़ा अप्लाई करना है पाकिस्तान
जी,
तो उसका हस्बैंड जो पाकिस्तान में, उसकी फोटोग्राफ तो नहीं चाहिए नंबर 1 इधर?
जी नहीं, फ़ोटोग्राफ की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज़ पता है कि वो जब बेटी का जो हस्बैंड है जब वो जाएगा पासपोर्ट जमा करने के लिए, तो वहाँ ही उसके वो डिजिटल फ़ोटोज़ वो खुद ही ले लेंगे वीज़ा सेंटर में। सो एक्चुअल पासपोर्ट साइज़ फ़ोटोज़ उसका या तो आपका बेटी का वो सबमिट करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, बिल्कुल नहीं है।
अच्छा। और दूसरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि وہ کونسل ٹیننٹس ہے تو اس کا ہاؤس کا وہ کیسے لیٹر وہ کونسل والے تو نہیں بنا کے دیتے تو اس کا پھر کیا کیا
تو یہ جو کاؤنسل ٹیننٹس ہے نا وہ آپ کی بیٹی ہے اس کا خود کا نام پہ ہے وہ پراپرٹی
جی خود کے نام ہے
جی تو اس میں اگر وہ لیٹر نہیں دینے تب بھی کوئی پرابلم نہیں ہے اگر وہ نہ کہتے کہ ہم نہیں دیں گے تب بھی کوئی پرابلم نہیں ہے مگر آپ کو وہ ڈالنا چاہیے آپ کو ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ ڈالنی چاہیے ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ اور
جی وہ تو ہے
اور جو ہے اور وہ کتنا ٹائم سے وہ وہاں ٹیننٹ ہے کتنا ٹائم ہو گیا
وہ تقریباً 1.5 سال سے ہے
اوکے سو اگر 1.5 سال سے ہے نا تو وہ سیکیور ٹیننٹ ہوگی سیکیور ٹیننٹ تو سیکیور ٹیننٹ سے کیا ہوتا ہے کہ سیکیور ٹیننٹ خود وہ ڈیسائیڈ کر سکتا ہے کہ کون اس کے گھر میں رہے گا کون نہیں رہے گا وہ کاؤنسل سے اجازت لینے کی ضرورت نہیں ہے سیکیور ٹیننٹ کے لیے تو اس میں 2 ٹیننسی آتی ہیں ایک تو انٹروڈکٹری ٹیننسی 1 سال کے بعد وہ سیکیور ٹیننٹ وہ ٹیننٹ بن جاتا ہے تو اس میں کاؤنسل سے اجازت لینے کی کوئی ضرورت نہیں ہے تو صرف آپ کو ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ ڈال دینی چاہیے جو بکلٹ ہوتی ہے جو بھی ہے وہ پوری ڈال دینی چاہیے انڈر میں کوئی جگہ میں لکھا ہوگا کہ اگر آپ خود ڈیسائیڈ کر سکتے ہیں کہ آپ کے گھر میں کون رہے گا سو ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ ڈال دو اگر کوئی لیٹر ہے کوئی کنفرمیشن ہے کہ یہ سیکیور ٹیننٹ ہے اس کا لیٹر ڈال دو سو یہ ہو گیا پھر آپ کو ڈالنا پڑے گا ہاؤسنگ رپورٹ ڈال دینا چاہیے کہ گھر میں کتنے کمرے ہیں یا تو فلیٹ ہے تو فلیٹ میں کتنے کمرے ہیں کتنے بندے رہ سکتے ہیں اور اس میں لکھا ہوگا کہ اگر آپ کی جو ڈاٹر ہے اس کا اگر ہسبینڈ یو کے آئے گا تو انف اسپیس ہے اس کے لیے سو ایک تو ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ
1 بیڈ روم ہے ویسے تو وہ 1 بیڈ روم ہے اور ایک کچن باتھ اور سٹنگ روم ہے
جی تب بھی بیٹر کہ آپ ڈال دیں بیٹر کہ ایک ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ ہو گئی اور ایک ہاؤسنگ رپورٹ ہو گیا سو وہ دونوں کاغذ کافی ہوں گے آپ کے لیے بیکاز وہ سیکیور ٹیننٹ ہے اور ہاؤسنگ رپورٹ تو کوئی بھی بندہ مل جائے گا اگر کوئی نہیں ملتا تو اسٹیٹ ایجنٹس بھی کرتے ہیں رفلی اس کی 40 پاؤنڈ 50 پاؤنڈ ایسی کچھ فی ہوتی ہے مگر وہ دونوں ڈال دو ٹیننسی اگریمنٹ اور ہاؤسنگ رپورٹ وہ دونوں ڈال دو وہ کافی ہے اگر آپ کو کاؤنسل کا ہاؤسنگ ایسوسیشن کا لیٹر نہیں ملتا تو اٹ ڈزنٹ میٹر ضروری نہیں ہے
اچھا
جزاک اللہ آپ نے فون کیا ہے تھینک یو جزاک اللہ ٹیک آ نیکسٹ کال ہلو السلام علیکم ہلو
السلام علیکم
جی وعلیکم السلام
I've just got a quick question.
Sure, okay.
I'm going to apply for my husband's indefinite leave to remain next year.
Okay, right.
And I called him here because I was on benefits.
Understand, okay.
And I want to apply for a council house because at the moment I'm living in private tenancy and I'm having problems with the landlord and the tenants who live on the ground floor.
I understand.
Will that cause any problems for my husband's indefinite leave to remain?
It will cause no problems whatsoever. If you want to apply for a council house, if you want to mention like you should, obviously you've got a husband, there's absolutely no problems whatsoever with that. Because the reality is you as a British citizen, you're entitled to apply for a council house. And even...
Also, like if I put his name on the application as well, will that cause any problem?
No, there'll be no problems at all with that, at all.
Even though he's on a spouse visa?
Yeah, he won't. What he won't be entitled to is housing benefit in his own right. So he won't be eligible for housing benefit in his own right. You might be...
At the moment, I'm getting housing benefit anyway, so if I...
Yep, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You might be entitled to housing benefit, which is fine.
Right.
But your husband won't get a letter from the council saying you're entitled to housing benefit. So council house isn't a problem. You getting housing benefit is not a problem as well.
Okay. Even though I'm going to apply for his indefinite leave to remain next year.
No, because you know when you apply for indefinite leave to remain, you can tell them, I've got a council house, here's my tenancy agreement, and if you're on benefits, you can say, this is what I get. I'm assuming you're exempt from the 18,600 requirement.
Because I called him down on my benefits.
Yeah.
The first time I called him.
Yeah, is it PIP or carers allowance or something you're on?
PIP.
Okay, yeah, absolutely fine. So when you submit the application, you will say, this is what I get PIP, this is what I get for employment support allowance or universal credit, working tax credit, child tax credit, this is what I get, and I get housing benefit. There's no problem at all with that. Absolutely none.
And it won't affect you like when I apply for his nationality or his British passport in the future?
No, because once you get indefinite leave to remain, once you've got that, when he then applies for nationality, at that stage, they do not look at your income at all.
Right. Okay.
They might ask you, where have you worked in the last 10 years, your employment history, but they don't look at your income when it comes to nationality. But I mean, coming back in terms of the indefinite leave to remain application that you need to be making soon, there's no problem at all with that, at all.
Okay, then thank you very much for that.
No problem. Huh? Thank you. Thank you very much for your call. Okay, thank you. So just before we took those calls, what I was saying was that today what I want to look at is the situation where somebody is sponsoring their husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom. And we've looked at in depth the situation where somebody has, the sponsor in the UK has been employed, and they would then normally obviously submit wage slips and bank statements, etc. Today what we want to look at is a situation where somebody is self-employed. The normal situation that you get where somebody is self-employed is that they are either running their own business in their own name, or they may be running the business in partnership with somebody else. So it's that scenario that we're looking at. Now, the typical examples that you get in practice in terms of somebody who's self-employed, it may be that they have their own shop, they might have an online business, they may be, let's say, they may be a taxi driver and they have a taxi, or it could be a whole variety of businesses, from small businesses to much larger businesses. But the key thing is that they are, or they fall within the category of self-employed. They are not employed. Now, the Home Office previously, prior to 2012, didn't really have any strict requirements in terms of the documents that needed to be submitted where somebody is self-employed. Now, the Home Office is very particular about the kind of documents that will need to be submitted. And there's a whole list of documents that need to be submitted. And I'll just very quickly run through them, and then I will go into detail about each of them. So typically, somebody who's self-employed might be submitting their accounts, their tax returns, confirmation about the amount of tax payable, confirmation of the amount of tax actually paid and what is now outstanding, documentary evidence relating to their UTR number, their personal bank statements for 12 months, their business bank statements for 12 months, and possibly evidence that they are still self-employed up until the date of the application. So in a nutshell, there's about 7 documents that need to be submitted where somebody is self-employed. It's important that these documents, which are mandatory documents, they are submitted. So let's say, for example, somebody is operating a small shop somewhere, and they are a small shop owner. They are acting as a sole trader, so they're not in partnership. What they will need as a minimum, in my experience, is to have an accountant who will assist them with the preparation of these documents. Because one of the key documents that the Home Office will ask for is normally the accounts for the business. And to be quite honest, they will only accept accounts from a chartered accountant or a chartered certified accountant. So it's better, in my experience, to have an accountant if you have a small business, and ask the assistance of the accountant to get the financial documents ready. Now, starting point is that the sponsor will need to submit his or her financial accounts. Now, the key thing here is the period that the Home Office looks at. The period that the Home Office looks at is April to April. That's the UK financial year, obviously. And the Home Office wants to look at the accounts for that period. So, for example, somebody might be applying now in February 2019. Now, that person will need to submit their accounts for the last financial year. Here the period is very, very important. So they will need to submit the accounts for the last financial year. The last financial year for for somebody who's applying now would be April 17 to April 18. That's the last UK financial year, even though the application is being made many months down the line in February 2019, some 10 months later. But the key thing is that the last financial year is April 17 to April 18, not April 18 to April 19, because this financial year hasn't finished. It's the last complete financial year. Now, I do find that a lot of people run into difficulties because they get the financial years wrong. They may, instead of submitting documents relating to April 17, April 18, they will submit documents relating to April 16, April 17, because that's the last set of accounts the accountant has done. The accountant hasn't done the last year's, the last complete year's accounts yet. So they simply submit the ones that they have, which may be too old. So it's vitally important that you get the year right, because a lot of the documents that you then submit, they follow on from the relevant financial year. Do apologize. Right. So, first thing, somebody who is self-employed, they will hopefully have an accountant or will get an accountant, and will ask the accountant to prepare the financial year accounts for the last financial year. Should be relatively straightforward. It will be apparent from those accounts which have been prepared what the profit for the business is. So what you will look at is the net profit for the business. So you've got your turnover, you've got all the expenses which come out of the business, whether it's lease costs, rates, employee costs, gas, electricity costs, whatever it is. After taking out your expenses, you're left with the net profit, and that's the figure that the Home Office will look at, the net profit figure. And if all you're doing is sponsoring a husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom, there's no child involved, then the amount of net profit has to be a minimum of £18,600. So similar to the situation where somebody is employed, they need to have earnings of 18,600. Similarly, somebody who is self-employed needs to have net profit of 18,600. So that's the starting point. Now, although we're talking about self-employment and spouse applications, whatever your questions are, whatever they relate to, please do pick up the phone and give us a ring. It doesn't have to relate to this topic. You can ask us any questions that you have on any aspect of English law. So, returning to this, the net profit, first of all, has to be 18,600 on the key document that the accountant prepares. Now, as I said before, it has to be prepared by a qualified accountant. So normally in practice, you find that it's a chartered accountant, chartered certified accountant. There's certain other bodies whose, if the accounts are prepared by members of that particular body, the Home Office will accept. But normally it has to be a particular body that they belong to. And in practice, the accountants that you see normally doing this kind of work are either chartered or chartered certified accountants. So they will need to prepare the accounts for the business. And they will normally do something called a confirmation statement. So they will confirm that they have prepared the accounts based on the information received from the sponsor, and they will then sign it off. So that's what the Home Office wants to look at in terms of accounts. Always a good starting point because you get an idea about what the profit figure is. Now, what the accountant normally does is, based on those accounts, the accountant will normally submit the tax return. Now, again, the tax return is also a mandatory document, and the tax return will relate to the last financial year. So it's going to relate to April. If we are applying now, it will relate to April 2017 to April 2018. And in the tax return that the accountant submits to the Home Office, you will be able to tell from there that there are certain things that match. If you look at the accounts, if you look at the tax return, you can tell that both have the turnover figure in there, both have a figure in there for net profit, etc. So that's what the accountant submits to the Home Office and confirms to the Home Office that, look, this is the amount of income, this is the amount of net profit that this person has. So that's the second key document. You've got the financial accounts, which the accountant prepares, and you've got the tax return, again, which the accountant submits to the Home Office. So that's the second key document. And normally, in practice, when you're looking at this, what you normally look at is you check what the net profit figure is that's been provided in the tax return in terms of net profit. And again, it's got to be a minimum of £18,600, and that's what the Home Office also looks at. Now, once the tax return is submitted, which nowadays is done online, you also get confirmation from HMRC that the tax return has been submitted. So you would normally submit that with the application as well. So look, here's my tax return, here's my confirmation that I have submitted my tax return as well from HMRC. The next step in this process, logically, is that once the tax return is submitted to the Home Office, the Home Office, the tax office, HMRC then automatically in the portal calculates how much tax is payable for that financial year. So if what's been put in is that the business, whether it's a shop, whether it's somebody who drives a taxi, etc., they've made a net profit of, let's say, £19,000 a year. Once that's been submitted online with the tax return, there will be a document which is generated, and HMRC refers to that as an SA302. Basically, all that document is that document confirms how much tax is now payable on excuse me, how much tax is now payable on the tax return that's been submitted and the net profit which has now been declared to the tax office. So typically, let's say somebody submits that they earn £19,000 a year. They'll have a personal allowance of, let's say, £11,000, which is not taxable. Anything above that will be taxable at 20%, if it's higher, at a much higher rate. But typically, where somebody is sponsoring their husband or wife to come to the United Kingdom, they are self-employed, and they're showing earnings of about £19,000 a year, typically in tax and national insurance, they will end up paying to HMRC something in the region of £2,000, £2,500. That's typically what is payable to HMRC. So the accounts have been done, the tax return has been submitted, and you've received the calculation in terms of how much tax is payable. We'll get on to the other documents that need to be submitted after we've taken a short break.